We are about to proceed to our next panel discussions. So, to all the participants that are still in the coffee break area, I kindly ask you to come back to your places. We will have enough breaks after that. We are a little bit late to the program, so if you want to have a really comprehensive discussions, I kindly invite everyone back to the conference room. Thank you. We are starting in several minutes. I know that sandwiches, coffees, sweets, and teas were really delicious, but I'm afraid we have to start our next session. So please, if there's still anyone left on the coffee break area, please come back to the conference room. Last moments till the start of the second panel discussion. Please make sure you are ready, seated, and ready to start. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we are starting our second panel discussion on global partnerships to achieve mine-free world. In previous panel, we had a really fruitful discussion, and I'm sure we will have even more interesting one. In this, I want to introduce you the moderator of this panel discussion, the UNDP Global Mine Action and Development Advisor, Mr. Steiner Essen, and the panelists, EU Ambassador Peter Michalko, Mr. Peter Michalko, former President of Croatia, Mr. Stepan Mesic, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Germany to the Conference on Disarmament, Thomas Gobel, Mr. Thomas Gobel, Executive Director of Marshall Legacy Institute, Ms. Elise Becker, and finally, Senior Advisor of Mine Advisory Group, Mr. Sebastian Kazak. Just a little adjustment. Mr. Mesic will have an interpreter. So you will listen to this speech in English. On the question-answer part, if you have a question that's that's addressed to Mr. Mesic, you can approach after the session, and his interpreter will help you to build a dialogue. Please.
Thank you so much. Your Excellencies, Mine Action colleagues, dear friends. I've been given the honor and the pleasure of moderating this important session 4 on global partnerships, partnership to achieve a mine-free world. Partnership is close to our UNDP heart. Sector coordination, promoting, strengthening national structures and capacities, and exploring opportunities to link mine action to the wider development sector is core to the UNDP's mine action mandate. In his opening speech yesterday, Vugar Suleimanov, the chairman of ANAMA and our generous host, challenged us to use this conference to explore opportunities for collaboration, sharing successes, and build networks. And as the draft declaration from this conference states, we want to renew our commitment to strengthen global partnership and cooperation in support of national efforts and as demonstration of global solidarity. So we are gathered here again at the second International Mine Action Conference in Baku, and it's a testimony of the government of Azerbaijan and ANAMA's genuine desire to partner with you and the rest of the international mine action community, draw on your wealth of experience, build on sector best practices to develop an efficient and effective mine action sector in Azerbaijan. So I think we have an obligation to use this session to identify opportunities to strengthen partnership globally in this region and in Azerbaijan in particular. I encourage the speakers to be concrete, bold, innovative, but also practical, so we can bring your ideas forward in the months to come. Partnerships can have many shapes and forms, and our distinguished panelists will help us explore partnership from 5 different angles. So let me introduce the first speaker, who will address the issue of global partnership in support of resource mobilization. In every mine action program, financial support from the international donor community is essential, but very often a major challenge for national mine action authorities. How to establish long-term, fruitful donor partnerships? What mechanisms for donor engagements exists? What drives donor priorities globally in this region and in Azerbaijan? To help us address some of these questions, I'm pleased to give the floor to the biggest international donors to mine action in Azerbaijan. Peter Mikhailov, EU Ambassador to Azerbaijan, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Mr. President, dear ambassadors, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers, the Azerbaijani government and ANAMA, as well as UN office in Azerbaijan for organizing this conference, and thank you also for inviting me as a speaker. It is a special honor to be on the same panel with His Excellency Mr. President Mesic, the politician that inspired so many in Europe. The European Union is a global leader and committed to mine action across the world. The European Union has also been the biggest donor to Azerbaijan among international partners in the area of mine action. Mine action in Azerbaijan is one of the top priorities in the EU-Azerbaijan cooperation. It is needed, and we see that the need is immense. We deplore the fact that mines continue to lead to loss of life and injuries, and want to express condolences to the victims and their families. Since 2020, the European Union contracted over 6 million euros to address most urgent mine action needs in Azerbaijan, so far through partnerships with international organizations such as UN, UNDP, UNICEF, as well as leading non-governmental organizations, both international and local NGOs, like Mine Advisory Group or IEPF. It is important also to see partners like Links Europe and Marshall Legacy Institute on board of this effort. The European Union acts together as Team Europe, the EU institutions and member states, together with over 8 million euros provided in support of Azerbaijan, Croatia being one of those countries, member states of the European Union, together with others, that is providing the support to partners in the world in this important area. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for this contribution of your country as well, together with other member states. In addition to this very substantial ongoing support, the European Union, in close coordination with the EU member states, will continue to build its partnership with Azerbaijan in the area of mine action, both financially and through its expertise. In areas such as mine risk awareness, and the EU is already actively supporting targeted education programs and various information campaigns to the affected parts of population. Humanitarian demining, and the EU is already active in capacity building of ANAMA and local NGOs, including building of female demining teams, for example. And assistance to mine victims that we want to see, and we want to do more also in this important area. The European Union is also willing to contribute its part in the coordination of mine action activities in Azerbaijan with other international stakeholders, including other international donors. The EU has always been a supporter of multilateralism, that is, working together to protect and promote peace and sustainable development. Coordination is an important part of ensuring multilateralism results in sustainable and effective cooperation. This conference is a very welcome indicator of this spirit of coordination and cooperation. Another important point for multilateralism is agreeing on common rules of engagement to avoid reoccurrence of past problems in the future. In regard to demining, this means ensuring that no new landmines are laid. In this context, the Ottawa Convention banning the use, production or stockpiling of landmines is multilateralism and at its best. And I would like to thank Germany for being the current chair and leading globally this effort, and to Ambassador Gobel for leading this effort from Geneva, now being with us here in Baku. The European Union is an active supporter of the Convention, which is a success story for disarmament and diplomacy. 164 countries have already adhered to the Convention, and in the EU, we hope that the 3 South Caucasus countries will do so as well. Effective mine action in Azerbaijan is key to address the consequences of the conflict and ensure the safe, voluntary, and dignified return of the IDPs to the territories which they had fled from due to the conflict. Mine action is also important for the reconstruction of those territories to which the process of resettlement has already begun. And the European Union is also looking to possibilities how to support reconstruction in the future. The need is huge, and the EU will work, the institutions and the member states. We want to increase the support that we have been already providing. The European Union continues to be committed to a safe, secure and prosperous Azerbaijan and South Caucasus, including through effective multilateralism and global partnerships. And at this opportunity, I would like also to congratulate Azerbaijan and Azerbaijani people on the upcoming Independence Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador, and thank you for EU's commitment and long-term support to mine action in Azerbaijan. And I want to echo your words of encouragement to other donors to join the mine action team in Azerbaijan. This is a success story that they should take part in. Partnership is also about sharing sector best practices. And for many of us who's been in the sector for a long time, Croatia has been a champion in many ways. It is a country that clearly can serve as an inspiration for Azerbaijan and other countries in regards to strong national ownership, extensive use of own resources, and a strong willingness to share its experience and expertise within the field of mine action with others. It is therefore a great honor to give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Mesic, former President of Croatia, to share experience on mine action from a Croatian perspective. Mr. Mesic, the floor is yours.
Большое спасибо. Ekscelencije, gospođe i gospodo, uvaženi sudionici i gosti, iako miniranje kao metoda ratovanja nije novijeg datuma, pa se o miniranju te razminiranju govori već duži niz godina, posljednja iskustva pokazuju nam da se razminiranjem izbjegavaju ljudske žrtve i povećavaju resursi potrebnih za razvoj gospodarstva. Mine su se koristile i u Prvom i u Drugom svjetskom ratu, nakon kojeg su akcije razminiranja bile organizirane na različite načine. Zbog svojih dalekosežnih posljedica, nužnost razminiranja prepoznale su relativno rano. I to ne zato što mine pogađaju vojske zaraćenih strana, nego stradavaju i civilno stanovništvo. Iako je primjera miniranja i razminiranja kroz povijest mnogo, moguće je reći kako je razminiranje onih područja na kojima su minska polja postavljena planski bilo brže i učinkovitije. Recimo ondje gdje su u Drugom svjetskom ratu minska polja bila postavljena planski, prije svega na mjestima kojima su trebale proći vojske, vojne formacije, tenkovi, kamioni i prijevozna sredstva i razminiranje je bilo jednostavnije. Po prolasku neprijateljstava zaraćene strane međusobno bi podijelile informacije, te bi se bez odgode išlo u razminiranje. Na primjeru bivše Jugoslavije najzornije to ilustrira činjenica da je duž cijele države bilo velikih minskih polja iz Drugog svjetskog rata, koja su, zahvaljujući kartama i dobivenim informacijama, razminirana su za samo godinu dana. S druge strane, nakon našeg domovinskog rata, 90. godina, proces razminiranja u Hrvatskoj traje i dalje. Nedostatak karata i činjenica da mine nisu postavljene planski glavni su razlog tome. Vojne postrojbe postavljali su mine nesustavno, uglavnom u strahu, kako bi osigurali svoj položaj kada dođu na taj položaj. Glavni problem je u tome što zaraćene strane nisu razmijenile nakon rata planove postavljenih mina. Danas i dalje osjećamo posljedice tog postupka. Sva sumnjiva područja potrebno je pretražiti detektorima, proći svaki centimetar i razraditi plan, te na posljedku krenuti u razminiranje. U taj proces uključene su vješto uvježbane specijalne ekipe koje su sposobne pristupiti području, locirati i demontirati minu, odnosno cijela minska polja. U novije se vrijeme koriste i elementi tehnološkog napretka, međutim situacija je tim teža što mina ima zaostalih po šumama i nepristupačnim mjestima do kojih strojevi teško mogu doći. Tada se u priču uključuju i potražni psi, također važni čimbenici u lociranju zaostalih mina. Nije manje važna ni činjenica da o rješavanju problema s minama ovisi i gospodarski i industrijski razvoj miniranih područja. Šteta je dakle višestruka, a odgađanje razminiranja samo produbljuje to. Za razumijevanje razminiranje ne bi trebalo biti samo odgovornost zemalja koje su pretrpjele ratne sukobe. Međunarodna zajednica i zemlje koje su sudjelovale u konfliktima također bi trebale preuzeti dio odgovornosti i pomoći u procesu razminiranja i obnove zemlje. Mi u Hrvatskoj dobro smo ekipirani, proizvodimo sustave za razminiranje, imamo obučene pse i vrlo dobre rezultate. Upravo smo zato sretni što se tema razminiranja internacionalizira i prepoznajemo važnost dijeljenja međusobnih iskustava i ideja. Ipak želim izraziti vjeru u ideju da je miniranje, pa onda i razminiranje, korak koji bismo trebali izbjeći diplomatski i za stolom, njegujući politiku mira, suradnje i dijaloga, te rješavajući probleme prije nego što eskaliranje u sukobe. Takav pristup ne samo da je jeftiniji i manje destruktivan, već je i dugoročno održivo rješenje. Za kraj želim jasno poručiti da kao stanovnici planeta Zemlja, neovisno o podrijeklu, imamo odgovornost prema budućim generacijama kako bi ostavili svijet u boljem stanju nego što smo ga zatekli. Stoga, osim što radimo na razminiranju i obnovi zemlje, moramo se boriti za mir i suradnju, a ne za rat i za sukobe. Samo kroz zajednički rad i poštovanje među narodima možemo stvoriti svijet u kojem će svi ljudi živjeti u miru i sigurnosti. Hvala što ste me saslušali.
Your Excellency, thank you for sharing your insight into the history of mine action in Croatia. I think we have a lot of success stories that we all can learn from, and I am also glad that you address some of the current existing challenges. And I wish you a great success, and I hope to see Croatia mine-free fairly soon. Partnership is also about working towards common goals. A mine-free world, a mine-free Azerbaijan. And the mine action sector is very fortunate that we have a number of disarmament conventions that serves as a framework for our common work. It gives us an arena to meet and discuss progress, success, and address challenges. I know firsthand that a number of partnerships, fruitful partnership, has been established in the coffee shops in the UN Palais in Geneva during various state party meetings over the last 20 plus years. It is therefore a great pleasure to give the floor to Thomas Goebel, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Germany to the Conference of Disarmament, but in this context, most importantly, the President of the Anti-Personnel Mine Ban Convention. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Steiner, for your kind introduction, and I'm very honored to be at this panel and even challenged speaking after such a distinguished panelist like the former President of Croatia, and I'd like to thank him for his words. So, Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for this important conference, let's just say the Mine Action Agency of the Republic of Azerbaijan, the government of Azerbaijan, and the UN Azerbaijan for inviting me to this important conference and giving me the opportunity to speak about the Convention on the Prohibition of the Use, Stockpiling, Production, and Transfer of Anti-Personnel Mines and their destruction, well known as the Ottawa Convention. Since November last year, Germany is holding the presidency of this landmark treaty, which has just celebrated his 25 years. And 25 years, that means also 25 years of work towards a world free of anti-personnel landmines. The Ottawa Convention has always and will remain a great humanitarian success. The treaty has achieved a lot, but we have challenges ahead, including large areas remaining to be addressed, sustained efforts to guarantee the rights of survivors, and the need to continue strengthening the norm against the use of mines, including through universalization of the Convention. The title of this conference, Mine Action, the Path of Reaching Sustainable Development Goals, could be easily replaced by the Ottawa Convention, the path reaching sustainable development goals. Because the Ottawa Convention and the Sustainable Development Goals are indeed two important global frameworks that both demonstrate our collective commitment to promoting peace, security, and sustainable development worldwide. The Sustainable Development Goals provide a comprehensive blueprint for global development by addressing social, economic, and environmental challenges. And I'm sure that you appreciate from the speakers yesterday, but also this morning, the the 17 interconnected goals and their corresponding targets, which reflect our collective aspirations for a sustainable future encompassing poverty eradication, gender equality, climate action, quality education, and more. So the SDGs recognize the indivisibility of peace, security, and development, emphasizing the importance of inclusive and sustainable practices to overcome global challenges. And the Ottawa Convention is an instrument to reaching exactly these goals. The Ottawa Convention stands as a landmark treaty aiming at eliminating the use of anti-personnel landmines and ensuring the well-being of affected communities. It embodies the shared conviction that the use of landmines inflicts severe humanitarian consequences and impedes socio-economic progress. The Convention has been instrumental in driving efforts to eradicate anti-personnel mines, clearing contaminated areas, and ensure the exclusion of civilians from mined areas, assisting victims, advocacy, and destroying stockpiled mines. I'm glad that the draft declaration of this conference acknowledges this important role of the Convention, declaring to take bold actions to advance global mine action inter alia by sharing the principles and values of the existing legal instruments, including the Ottawa Convention. But the Convention represents not only a comprehensive framework for ending the suffering and casualties caused by anti-personnel mines, but it is also a community of more than 80% of the world's states that have deemed anti-personnel mines to be obsolete. A platform for member states to engage in the Convention's traditional spirit of cooperation in the Convention's implementation. By prohibiting the use, production, and transfer of anti-personnel mines, this treaty fosters a safer and more inclusive world for present and future generations. Therefore, the German presidency of the Ottawa Convention is not only working to improve the cooperation between mine-affected and donor states among member states of the Convention, which is certainly a prerequisite for making progress in clearance activities, but we have put a special focus on making this convention universal. We have just heard by the distinguished ambassador to the EU that we have today 164 states parties, which is certainly an encouraging number, but it's not yet universal. And to make the world free of anti-personnel landmines, we will need a comprehensive commitment by all of the states to prohibit the use, production, and transfer of these horrible weapons. Only this could guarantee that one day we could hopefully celebrate that we have finished the job, not only in Azerbaijan, but worldwide, that we have cleared all mine-affected areas, and that there is no risk anymore for new anti-personnel mines being deployed. And to add that even such a success would leave us with a continued task to guarantee the rights of mine survivors and to continue to assist the victims of these cruel weapons. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ottawa Convention and the Sustainable Development Goals share a common vision of creating a more peaceful and prosperous world. Both prioritize the well-being and safety of individuals, communities, and societies, and underline the importance of cooperation, partnership, and multilateral action. They also provide important frameworks to advance the rights of persons with disabilities, including mine survivors. By aligning efforts to eradicate landmines with a broader agenda of sustainable development, we can foster lasting peace, promote human rights, and empower communities affected by conflicts. It is crucial that governments, international organizations, civil society, and other stakeholders continue to work together to implement the provisions of the Ottawa Convention and thus advancing the Sustainable Development Goals. This requires sustained political will, resource mobilization, capacity building, and knowledge sharing. That's why this conference and other platforms to exchange best practices and lessons learned are so important. By leveraging the synergies between these different frameworks, we can achieve significant progress in saving lives, protecting human rights, promoting sustainable livelihoods, and building resilient societies. But let me insist, to make this progress truly sustainable, to ensure that we will not be again and again confronted with the challenges posed by anti-personnel landmines, we have to make sure that we share all the principles and values of the Convention, starting with the prohibition of use, production, and transfer. As we move forward, let us renew our commitment to the principles enshrined in the Ottawa Convention and the Sustainable Development Goals. Next year, the Convention enters a Rio conference year, an important year, and we are hoping to have good stories to tell, as, for example, states having completed their clearance obligations and states not party yet making progress in aligning themselves with the provisions of the treaty, for example, the prohibition of voluntary transparency reports or putting in place moratoria on the use and production. So, to conclude, let us strive forward for a world free from the threat of landmines and embrace sustainable practices that ensure the well-being of present and future generations. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador, for a very informative and inspiring intervention. And I encourage everyone who wants to continue to discuss the Convention with the Ambassador to join us in Geneva in late June for the intersessional. That's the place to be. And it's also the week of the National Directors meeting, so I hope to see most of you there. Partnership is also about innovation, introducing new tools, improving methods on all 5 pillars of mine action. A major reasons for the mine action sector's success, in my view, is our collective willingness to share experiences and constructively participate in research and development. The Geneva International Center for Humanitarian Demining, present here today, is of course instrumental in this process. But development has first and foremost occurred in the field by the mine action operators. And I'm therefore glad to give the word to Elise Becker, Director of the Marshall Legacy Institute, an organization that has actively supported ANAMA for years and has been an important organization driving the development of mine detection dog methodology forward globally. Elise, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much for that kind introduction. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I'd first like to thank ANAMA and the United Nations in Azerbaijan for inviting me here to participate in this important conference. And it is really a pleasure to be on such a distinguished panel this afternoon. So I'm here to talk to you about global partnerships and resources for development and better solutions. So partnerships are incredibly important, obviously, to tackle the complex problem of mine action. Activities associated with mine action, including identifying and removing landmines and other unexploded ordnance, EORE, or explosive ordnance risk education, and providing assistance to landmine survivors is complicated and expensive. So partnerships can mean providing technical support, technical advice, could mean donating funds or providing donations in terms of other support. And resources can include financial resources, but resources can also refer to the tools and technologies available to assist in mine action activities. And so in this way, partnerships and resources are linked, as a broader scope of partnerships can help achieve the goal of increased financial resources and the increased use of tools and technologies. We've been talking the past few days about the SDGs, so establishing mine action as the 18th SDG and linking it to the other Sustainable Development Goals can help to capture new partners and more resources, as mine action is invariably linked to development. Now, donor governments have been an essential lifeline to mine action programs, and their ongoing assistance will continue to be needed, as will the ongoing support from the governments of the mine-affected countries themselves. And reaching out to expand the global partnership networks to garner financial and other resources will also be essential, including in the private sector. So one example of a smaller scale public-private partnership is through my organization, the Marshall Legacy Institute. The Marshall Legacy Institute, it is a US-based nonprofit organization. We've been around since 1997, and our mission is all about helping countries coming out of conflict to help themselves. So we're called Marshall in the spirit and legacy of the Marshall Plan, and so we've really focused on the landmine issue as that crux of development. And so what I'll do with my remarks is briefly highlight two of our programs that Steinar alluded to, our Mine Detection Dog Partnership Program and our Children Against Mines program, to discuss how public and government funding complements private funding to assist in mine action efforts. So the Mine Detection Dog Partnership Program seeks to increase the quantity and quality of mine detection dogs working around the world, as we see them as a very valuable tool for landmine detection. To date, the Marshall Legacy Institute has donated more than 290 dogs to 11 different mine-affected countries around the world, including 75 dogs donated to Azerbaijan. We have been really pleased to work in Azerbaijan since 2005 to help establish and grow their mine detection dog capacity. MLI has historically leaned on both public and private sources to fund this program. The US government and other governments have been generous donors, including the government of Azerbaijan. And the private sector has also been critical to continuing this program through dog sponsorships. So nearly all of the 290 dogs that MLI has donated to countries around the world have been sponsored by private American donors. MLI places a high priority in reaching out to the private sector in the United States to inform people about the devastating impact of landmines and how highly trained dogs can help accelerate the pace of landmine detection by sniffing out mines and saving lives. We use a retired mine detection dog, Rico, who unfortunately I don't have with me today, but he is our canine ambassador, and we use Rico to help us deliver these messages to the private sector, including to schools, to companies, to civic associations, and to other clubs. So MLI has been able to expand our partner networks to contribute to mine action by utilizing the mine detection dog, which is a highly visible and effective tool. And so the Mine Detection Dog Partnership Program really strives to expand our partner network and engage more people in the landmine issue via the dog. This results in more financial resources for mine action, and these resources fund the resource of the mine detection dog that helps accelerate the pace of landmine detection, including here in Azerbaijan. As I mentioned, there's a robust MDD capacity we saw in Samir's presentation earlier, and MLI is very proud to support this capacity. So I talked about dogs, and now I'm going to talk about kids. Our Children Against Mines program, or CHAMPS, is a program that strives to engage young people in both the United States and in mine-affected countries in the landmine issue. So CHAMPS unites youth in the U.S. with youth living in mine-affected communities through virtual exchange. So we use Zoom. So there's virtual exchange, there's discussion during these calls, and learning about landmines. So the U.S. students who have no knowledge about landmines, because we're very fortunate in the United States that we do not have to confront the legacy of landmines. So these U.S. students have no knowledge of landmines, and they are thus brought in as partners, building connections and forging friendships with their peers living with the landmine threat. The CHAMPS program encourages students to implement service learning activities related to the landmine issue. And the students have really responded enthusiastically since we launched this program nearly 2 decades ago. To date, 48 mine detection dogs have been sponsored by students in the United States, And these students in the United States have also helped to provide more than 1,300 landmine survivors with prosthetic limbs and other aid that they need. And the students living in these mine-threatened communities have helped to deliver explosive ordnance risk education to more than 162,000 people. So we're very proud of our CHAMP students, both in the U.S. And living in mine-threatened communities, because these students are really partners in mine action who are generating resources for this important cause. And so partnerships and resources will continue to be needed in mine action. And mine action as an SDG is a way that more partnerships can be developed and more resources garnered. Thank you.
Elise, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and successes when it comes to public-private partnerships. I think as a sector, we have a job to do to improve our engagement with the private sector. So thank you so much. Okay, there are a lot, or not a lot, there are a few formalized partnerships in the mine action sector. I think the MASK group is one success. The Mine Action Support Group is a group among the key donors to mine action. The NGOs have established a semi-formalized partnership, which I think has been very successful. The UN family, we have something we call the UN Interagency Coordination Group on mine action, which ensures synergies between the UN agencies involved in mine action. But the biggest actor in mine action, the national mine action authorities, don't really have a forum or a mechanism for coordination among themselves. That said, we have seen regional cooperation mechanisms like in Southeast Asia. We have some South-to-South cooperation. But I think we still have a lot to do to strengthen partnership between national mine action authorities. So I'm therefore looking forward to hearing what Sebastian Kazak, a wise and very experienced mine action advisor from the Mines Advisory Group, thinks we can do to strengthen cooperation with and between national mine action authorities. Sebastian, take it away.
Thank you so much for the introduction. So I'll talk about cooperation with and between mine action authorities for efficiency and effectiveness. I'm a senior advisor in Mines Advisory Group for the last 6-7 years, but I've been in the sector for 25 plus years, including UNDP. So this will be a look from our side as operators collaborating with mine action authorities, and that includes mine action centers, that includes also our authorities in the provinces, in the districts. It's not only the mine action authority as such. We have a lot of partners we are cooperating with. So I want to take it away with 3 questions. And so what are some key benefits of a close and positive cooperation? And what are some key obstacles we may encounter where it's more difficult to work? And lastly, if there's a cooperation between the mine action authorities, it exists as like South-South cooperation, and I'll give some examples and which role also a mine action operator can play in this. So I thought we can address this topic. Sorry, I need to say next. Okay, go for the next slide, please. I don't see it here in front of us. All right, cool. So I want to address 7 aspects. That's like the role of the mine action authorities. Typical is coordination. Wonderful, thank you. It's information management. It's the institutional framework, so the strategy, mine action strategy, the standards we need. It's quality assurance, but it's also advocacy and support and fundraising. And then from the operator side, it's our role in building capacities, supporting the mine action authority staff. So the idea is to be more effective, which means doing things right, and being efficient, which means the least resources necessary. So how does this work? I got it. Where is the screen? Where do I have to put? Okay, cool. So what are some key benefits? And I will address both in one go. First, coordination leads to better planning, to better resource allocation. It leads to avoiding duplication, achieving greater efficiency. And we need access to areas that are maybe under military control, that are border zones, that are insecure areas. As operators, we wouldn't have access to these areas without the support of the mine action authorities and the government in place. Now, no one back. All right. Yeah. So a weak mine action authority, we are facing problems sometimes with communication, with language barriers, cultural differences, different cultural norms, and that may be different perception of risk, readiness about liabilities to take risks. This leads to different criteria on priorities and tasking, and at times we are faced with unrealistic demands about equipment, vehicles, per diems, etc., etc. So if we look at it from the positive side, a good and regular communication leads to opportunities to meet regularly and have access, etc. So as explained. Moving to the next point, information management. Thanks. A strong mine action authority, we provide data mutually, so to support each other. We have critical and reliable information, and we regularly update that information. So very good is sharing experiences and data in technical working groups, in donor meetings, in joint meetings, so that it's really a mutual effort. Now for a week, thank you, mine action authority. If we have lack of information, we have discrepancy in data, we get only very delayed information, we lose credibility. And then it's hard to plan, it's hard to prepare proposals, donors don't want to support us. So if we have good and regular data, we get opportunities to meet regularly, then we have mutual gains, trust by the operators, trust by the public, trust by the donors. On institutional frameworks, one back, please. Can I do it? No, one back, please. Yeah. So the framework, with a good strategy and established guidelines, protocols, etc., we know what we're doing. Gender is a key, of key importance to the sector. Equal employment opportunities are key, and the inclusion of various groups is part of our way to work to reduce conflict, potential conflict. So this all contributes to the professionalism and quality of our efforts. We share lessons learned, and as MAG with more than 30 years of experience, we can share experience from other contexts and learn from each other. What about a weak national mine authority? Okay, let's look at quality management. That's one of the key roles of the Mine Action Authority, to check independently how we are doing our job, not just in clearance, but also in risk education and in the different fields of mine action, how we do survey and non-technical survey, etc. So a strong Mine Action Center has good staff who know how to do this. And we work together and mutually trust each other that this information is correct. So if it's a strong Mine Action Authority, it leads to better quality. If it's weak, we may get unfair checks and ratings, and it will slow the pace, the motivation, and may potentially impact on funding. So if it's a strong quality assurance, we'll have timely handover as well of the lands to the populations, and then people will trust us and give reports about explosive ordnance to the National Mine Action Authority to task us again to deal with the bombs, mortars, etc. that people find in their fields. Advocacy fundraising. So with a strong Mine Action Authority, we'll create ownership, that was the topic of the previous panel, and enhance the relevance of mine action in country. It will help to integrate mine action into regional planning, budgets, national budgets. Azerbaijan has a strong potential, but for other partners in other countries, it's hard to really raise that local money and show their commitment. So if it's a weak advocacy, basically there may be negative messaging to external stakeholders, and that is a risk with the political agenda mixing things up, that we will not reach our goals. I put the role as facilitator, mediator. So with a strong mine action authority, we have someone who can help us as operators to work most efficiently in the country, to resolve difficulties sometimes with local authorities, etc., to discuss the pros and cons, to support us when we need visa to get into the countries, to support us with border controls, etc., customs, to get needed equipment into country, etc. So that's a really important point for us. So the seventh and last point on this list was what can we do as an operator? So joint training needs analysis of all stakeholders, the UN, the ICRC, the operators, the local NGOs, all of us do a joint capacity analysis and see what is really needed for this country. And then we can provide what we have to offer. So to enhance skills and knowledge, etc. This will lead to national sustainability as well once we leave as external operators. If you do the opposite, of course, you are impeding an efficient mine action programming. Let me get to the last point on South-South cooperation. There is a lot also of cooperation within country, but I will focus on the South-South. So, for example, in Lebanon, MAG has had a very strong collaboration with the LMAC, the Lebanese Mine Action Center, and over years. And this has led to significant changes in the way how land release is done in country. And we have invited then the Lebanese Mine Action Center to come to Senegal and share their experiences. And now Senegal has come to Guinea-Bissau to share their experiences working with us. Similarly, we have had experiences in Iraq, inviting the partners from Lebanon for an exchange visit, etc. So I'm aware of a visit of Laos and Azerbaijan to Lebanon in 2022, last year, and this included a visit to the MAG sites as an example of our cooperation with NGOs, between NGOs and the National Mine Action Authority. And really the key topic is operational efficiency and benefits of positive relationships. Also, a colleague is here, the head of RMAC, the ASEAN Regional Mine Action Center. That's quite unique to have a regional mine action center. I think it's the only one in that sense. And it really brings together the ASEAN-related mine action centers, and it's a very good way of fostering relationships in that region. As a summary, close and positive cooperation allows a proper exchange of information, which allows MAG, or the implementing partner. We often work through partners. The same here in Azerbaijan. It's a national partner we are supporting. So to take actions that maximize the impact of the mine action positive activities and positive outcomes lead to sustained government support and donor support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you for sharing of your wealth of knowledge. MAG is clearly one of the most experienced mine action operators in the world and a key partner for ANAMA. So thank you. The organizers believe that you are hungry, and they have therefore asked me to limit the number of questions to 2 or 3. So I suggest we try to focus on partnerships related to Azerbaijan. I know there's a lot of questions I'm sure you would love to ask to this very knowledgeable panelist, but let's maybe have a focus on Azerbaijan. Yes, let's have a few comments, reflections, and concrete advice. Thank you so much. Yes, please.
Is it on? Oh, it is on. Hi, I'm Erin Hunt, the co-director of Mines Action Canada. Thank you all to the panelists. I'd just like to pick up on a comment by Ambassador Gobel. Yesterday, I was really pleased to hear Azerbaijan has been submitting voluntary SDG reports, and it reminded me that Azerbaijan's also submitted voluntary Article 7 reports for the Ottawa Treaty in 2008 and 2009. And we know how important information sharing is for partnerships. So I'd like to hear from the panelists if they think this would be a useful thing for Azerbaijan and other states not party that may be here to do, submitting voluntary Article 7 reports this year and as we go into the review conference.
Thank you for that question. I think we know who should answer that questions. Yes, the President to the Convention, please take the floor, Ambassador.
Thank you, and thank you for this question. So I think it was not a secret that I was heavily doing advertisement for joining the Ottawa Convention, and indeed I think this is the ultimate goal of all the member states to make this convention universal. But indeed, and I think there are a lot of steps which are invisible to bring states closer to the convention, even before doing this final step of signing or ratifying it. And one is certainly what you've mentioned. It's a voluntary Article 7 report. It's transparency. It's information sharing. But it starts even earlier. It starts by engaging with the convention and coming to the intersessional meetings, to the meeting of states parties, and participate in this exchange. And but there are others invisible coming, and I touched upon it a little bit at the end, going over political declarations, statements, or even what we have also in the declaration, as a draft declaration for this meeting. So yes, indeed, absolutely, and I would encourage not only Azerbaijan, all the states who are there as an observer coming and joining us for the intersessional meetings to consider submitting such a report, sharing all the information with the community of the Ottawa member states. That would be indeed a step forward in the sense that we approach universalization of the treaty. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. I also just want to mention that we have a focus now on the Anti-Personnel Mine Ban Convention, but we shouldn't forget that we also have a very important convention on cluster munition, and I think a lot of the reflections we heard today relates also to that convention. Thanks so much. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. It was really very, very interesting panel. But, I have one question. Do you hear me? Yes. When we are talking about that just free of mine, the world, when we are talking about the whole of these ideas, it's just great. But right now, if we are looking, for example, from the perspective of Croatia, as we already heard from the President, that there are still kind of areas which is contaminated by mines. And it's more than, let's say, almost 30 years that the conflict already actually ended in Croatia, but you still have this problem there. And in that case, if you're looking from the case of Azerbaijan, we are trying to understand what we could do in our case in order to adjust very quickly and, solve this issue, because I think the mine action is also a very important issue from the reconstruction and rehabilitation, for the liberated areas of Azerbaijan. In that case, here is the question. If we are looking and just, trying to see what we have in the world, especially in the 60, let's say, countries which they have the same issue, mine action, could you just, bring at least one or two cases when there have been kind of the issue was solved finally, and we can say that these 2 or 3 cases are the best practices? And what was the main parameters in order to finish the issue with mine actions, with the mining? Thank you.
Thank you for that very good but very comprehensive question that I'm sure cannot be answered quickly. But do any of the panelists want to take a go at that question? Sebastian?
Yeah, the good news is that around 30 countries have managed to clear all known areas. And I would say the most important is really to know what is the scope of the problem. Only once you know the scope, you can actually plan and know how many resources you need to put in, etc. So it doesn't have to be NTS full non-technical survey. It can be a preliminary survey to really get a quick overview, and I think that's the start. And then you can start prioritizing from that ground of information. So I think in this situation here, you need to have a really step-by-step strategic approach towards tackling the problem, and that's land release. But you have issues that will last longer. Risk education needs to continue after clearance is finished. Victim assistance will need to continue after the clearance is finished. So that's not just focus on mine-free. Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian. I think that was a good answer. I just want to add that we of course say mine-free, but we know as a fact that we will never see Azerbaijan mine-free, but we will strive to make it free of all known mines. There will always be, like in the rest of Europe, there will always be mines and UXOs left behind that we will never clear. That's just a fact. Okay, last question. Mr. Karim, please.
Steiner, thank you. I'm obliged to you. Just on a personal note, may I firstly say what a tremendous honor it is to be present with former President Mr. Mesic. I was a member of the European Parliament at the time you were President of Croatia, and I was involved with many MEPs in supporting the Croatian move towards membership of the European Union, and your role throughout that time was something we greatly appreciated. So on a personal note, it's a real honor to be present here with you today. Steiner, if I may, I have two questions, one for the Honourable Ambassador of the European Union and one for Honourable Ambassador of Germany. Honourable Ambassador Mikhalko, the EU's support here is recognized, not just by Azerbaijan, but the South Caucasus as a whole. When I was a member of the European Parliament, I chaired the South Caucasus delegation, and there is a need today to take a much broader view, a regional view, as to how we address this core issue of demining. What I find, however, in Brussels, which is where I am based, is that there is still very little awareness about the mining that has taken place in the area, the challenges that need to be faced, other than when you are speaking to policymakers and decision makers who are directly engaged either in the region or on demining. Would it help, for instance, all of the tremendous political capital that Charles Michel has invested into the peace building here, would it help that process if there was greater awareness within the European Union amongst decision makers and policy makers, and how can the European Union bring that about? And very finally, Steiner, a question for Honourable Ambassador Mr. Gorbul. Thank you very much for your input. Once again, my question is slightly focused more on the political dynamics than the convention, the Ottawa Convention itself. But is there more of a role that member states can play to help bring the diaspora communities to the point where we need them to be, to help support the types of initiatives that you mentioned in relation to the Ottawa Convention, and to actually bring a cohesive settlement for the demining, but the greater peace as well? Steiner, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Karim. Maybe, please, Ambassador.
Thank you very much for this question. I think that it is obvious that European Union and other international partners are focused and will be even more focused on support to Azerbaijan and to work in the entire region in order to address the issue of mine action. I think that this has to be seen in both ways. It is very much part of the future vision of the vision for the peaceful, safe and prosperous South Caucasus, and it is also very much part of what people who live in Azerbaijan, in the entire region, need to see happening in terms of demining, so that they can see their countries prosperous. And in very practical terms, there is even much higher need after 2020 and now, when the reconstruction process in Karabakh is growing in speed, in pace, we see first people, first IDPs coming back. There is a great plan for return, and these people have to have their right secured for the decent and safe return. And the European Union, you mentioned the efforts of President of the European Council, Charles Michel, is working very intensively on the peace process, on the peace settlement. In the framework of the peace settlement efforts, also demining is one of the issues addressed in the framework of what is today called the Brussels Agenda, under the fourth area that covers issues related to humanitarian areas, and demining is one of them. But at the same time, the European Union, and not only the Union as such, but also member states, we are providing support for demining and other areas of mine action. This is also mine awareness. I very much agree that this will be something that also for the future we will have to be focused on. And for the future reconstruction. And this is the EU, and this is the member states, and each of the member states have their own programs and projects that they are implementing in this effort. So all this together, in cooperation with international partners like the UN, UNDP, we are working together, or UNICEF, with NGOs, because civil society is important, private sector is importantly involved in this area. All this is now forming a very robust effort that will even increase in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. And then, Ambassador, the word is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if I get your question right. Anyway, I won't adventure myself into the overall political settlement and the necessity of such a political settlement, because I'm far from being an expert of the region. But as I see it, the frameworks we discussed and what I introduced, the Ottawa Convention, is certainly something which can play a crucial role in accompanying such a process, because it's something which is, in essence, an element of confidence building between the two states involved. And as I described, the Ottawa Convention in itself is a platform where we have a very intense cooperation amongst member states, where there's a clear transparency when it comes to the mine policy of the member states. Though this could certainly be a positive input in any process, which hopefully we will see to start and to advance in the coming months. I think I would say to a certain degree we have to be humble, and I think we are humble in this regard. It will be certainly difficult to resolve such a global issue just by concentrating on mine policy. It's the other way around, and this means we have to accompany these processes, and this means also that we have to look for ways to accompany them step by step. And I think there we have a lot to offer, and I would really encourage both Azerbaijan and Armenia to make full use of these instruments to solidify also the process they are engaging in. So I stop here to give you a chance to readjust my answer. I don't know.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. And unfortunately, we have to end this very rich and inspiring session. A great thanks to our panelists, a great thanks to the audience, and back to you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, dear moderator, dear panelists. I think we have learned some new perspectives on the issue. Few details before we are going to lunch. Thanks for your contribution to the draft version of the conference declaration. The revised version can already be seen through the official website of ANAMA. So during the lunch, you have time to observe that, and after the last panel discussion, we will have this declaration on the monitors. The lunch will be on the third floor of the Flame Towers here, and it's called Alov Restaurant. And before you go there, we have a gift for you. So as in the coffee break area, you have seen the books there for you. You can take them. There are books dedicated to mine action in Azerbaijan, mine action in other countries, also books regarding Azerbaijan, Karabakh, Shusha. So feel free to take them with you. Enjoy your meal, and let's see you in 1 hour. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start our final panel discussion in several minutes, so make sure you're back in the conference room. last few minutes till the last panel discussion. Make sure everybody already in the conference room so that we'll have more time for discussions. So welcome to the last panel discussion of our conference. I guess lunch was really delicious. It's still difficult to gather all of you back here in the conference room. So our panel discussion is dedicated to the cascading impact of mines and ERWs on human security, estimating the human cost of mines. I would like to invite the moderator of this panel discussion, the Deputy Chairman of Public Council of ANAMA, Mr. Emil Hasanov, who has about 25 years experience in humanitarian demining. He worked in different countries, in Balkans, in Middle East. Please, Mr. Hasanov. And the panelists, consequently, UNICEF Mine Action Focal Point, Impact of EORE, Challenges and Opportunities, presented by Hughes Lawrence, Head of Secretariat and Policy Director of All-Party Parliamentary Group on Explosive Weapons, Nigel Elway, Deputy Minister of Labor and Social Protection of the Republic of Azerbaijan, Mr. Anar Karimov, ICBL CMC Ambassador from Uganda, Margaret Arak Orech, and UNDP Mine Victims Assistant Consultant, Keiko Tamura. So all the panelists are here. Mr. Hasanov, I pass the floor to you.
Adam, thank you very much. Actually, today we have last panel and a quite very deserved rest after lunch. We will cover today cascading impact of landmines. For sure, when we talk about landmines, we have a few important points that was highlighted a few days ago and yesterday as well, that to produce the mines has cost about $3, but to recover and destroy the mines, it's 300 up to 1,000 US dollars. And when we see the list of mine-affected countries, it starts with Egypt, 23 million, with Croatia, 3 million, Bosnia, 2 million, Angola, about 16 million, 10 millions. This figure is quite big. When you see behind the landmines, what kind of life we can protect and how much funds we spent for that, I just would like to refer to some points of the UN that to demine current landmine, to eliminate landmine problem, we need about 40 billion US dollars, and it is hundreds of years of work. Imagine what is the problems we face every time. Moreover, when we talk about humanitarian mine action, we always refer to the pillars of humanitarian mine action, because for sure we know that it is different from military mine action, and 5 pillars is following that we will today cover. It is mine victim assistance, risk education, stockpile destruction, advocacy, and demining itself. Our first panelist, a well-known person, our friend from UNICEF, Hugues Lorange. Hugues Lorange is a focal point for explosive ordnance risk education, and he co-chairs Explosive Ordnance Risk Education Advisory Group, which consists of 17 independent, well-known organizations. He has experience in Middle East, in Asia, in Africa, in Balkans, even in post-Soviet countries like Russia, Chechnya, and Tajikistan. I would like to ask Aouloner, my friend, please.
Thank you so much, Emil. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank, on behalf of UNICEF, I would like to thank Anama for organizing this event. I would like to thank the government of Azerbaijan for inviting us for this extraordinary event. I think more than 50 countries are represented in this two-day conference, and that will help not only elevate the mine action agenda in Azerbaijan, but also in the region and even beyond the region. We have a great collaboration with Anama, a very fruitful collaboration, but also with our UN sister agencies, UNDP, UNHCR, now very much engaged on explosive ordnance risk education, but also other actors. ICRC is engaged on risk education, IPF, DIAC, local national NGOs that have a key role to play. Today, after this intense visit we had yesterday and the whole week I spent here, I would like to share 5 takeaways with all of you. On this topic, we are talking through this panel, we are talking about preservation of human life. We are talking about maiming and killing. These devices are maiming and killing so many civilians and non-civilians. So before I start going through the takeaways, I would like to share some data, some patterns that we have observed over the last decades in all mine-affected countries around the globe. So this is about casualties, in this case, civilian casualties, in time of conflict. I'm talking about only, in this case, I'm only talking about explosive ordnance casualties. So if we look at the pattern that we observe, the trend that we usually observe, irrespective of the context, the number of civilian casualties is relatively stable during the conflict time. Of course, there are variations, but it's relatively stable. When peace is established, when a ceasefire agreement is signed or a peace agreement is signed, what we typically observe is an increase in victim numbers, a real outbreak of victim numbers. And that's always the pattern we observe. Due to freedom of movement, returnees are coming back to their home, refugees are coming back. Of course, even people in the village, there are no more checkpoints all around the place. They can move. Children can go back in the forest, in abandoned areas. They have this freedom of movement, and it's exactly at that point of time where we see this increase of victim numbers. We often have a peak then of victim numbers at some point, and then we observe a kind of decrease of victim numbers, and this is, depending on the context, is more and more fast, this decrease. It's usually a smooth decrease. Why do we have this decrease of victim numbers? It's due to various reasons. Of course, communities themselves, due to this outbreak of accidents, they will develop their own coping mechanism, irrespective of any mine action interventions. So we have also to be humble even without clearance, even without risk education, even without our interventions, communities will themselves develop their own coping mechanism that will contribute to a decrease of victim numbers. But of course, there will be, at some point, there will be less movement. People have already returned. There will be less movement of population, less contamination because clearance operations are now established, and also there are more risk education, explosive or non-risk education activities. So this is usually the trend that we observe. So my first key takeaway here is about how can we avoid this scenario in Azerbaijan, for example. A scenario where suddenly we have a peak of victim numbers, an outbreak. We heard today that there were so far, since November 2020, 302 casualties reported. 302 people lost their lives or were injured. That's already more than 100 per year. It's quite a lot. It's actually a high number. It's a very big number for a country that has 10 million, around 10 million inhabitants. So how can we prevent that? One of the key response and a recommendation for the country is to invest on universal prevention, or what we call primary prevention. And that can be done in various ways. I will come to this in a minute. Now, on a positive note, I just want to share this slide that is coming from Sri Lanka, where you see victim numbers since 2000, the early 2000s. And you see that after 3 decades of conflict in Sri Lanka, one of the very tough conflict we have seen in that region, in 2018, Sri Lanka managed to reach 0 casualties. I should be more accurate, 0 civilian casualties were reported in 2018. So they managed to stabilize the situation, even though they have, and they still have today, landmines. They still have remnants of war. They still have minefields, but they have reached this 0 casualty goal. So we heard a lot yesterday, today, about the mine-free Azerbaijan. It's also very crucial to think about a casualty-free Azerbaijan, and it is something doable, something realistic, something possible. For that, we need to invest a lot on primary prevention. And all those pillars that you see here, all those pillars are absolutely crucial. Of course, advocacy against the use of landmines, advocacy for the Mine Ban Treaty is a form of primary prevention, but of course, risk education as well. Clearance, stockpile destruction. Even victim assistance is seen as a form of prevention, what we call a secondary prevention or tertiary prevention. So this prevention continuum is important. Every single pillar has a role to play. It's not only EORE alone, risk education alone, that will succeed to this achievement where we have 0 casualties. We have to work hand in hand between the various mine action pillars. This is was my first takeaway, invest on universal prevention. Another takeaway here is a key concept that was a key principle that was highlighted yesterday by a representative of the Ministry of Economy. He reminded us that one of the key principles that underpin the SDGs is the principle of leaving no one behind. And here I'm highlighting this because when we look at the data on casualties, when we dig out and try to explore the profile of each casualty, we realize that landmines and ERW are always first targeting the poorest members of the community, the boy who cannot, or the girl who cannot go to school, or the disabled person, or someone who could not get the messaging from the risk education campaign. It's a kind of common denominator we observe all across the world. The first victims are always the poorest members of the community, the poorest among the poor. So we need to address